So we'll just jump right into it. A few games to talk about here. We're going to start with West Virginia, Oklahoma. West Virginia beat Oklahoma 23 to 20. Still holding on to a slight chance of bowl eligibility. They have a tough schedule going forward. Neil Brown, I still think he will probably lose his job, but a big game here. JT Daniels got benched. Garrett Green came in and played pretty well. Oklahoma is now what, 5-5? Rough year for them.
Yes.
Is Brent Venables just a coordinator?
Oh, here we go. I don't know. That's early. There's some talk about it though, huh? Like, I mean, not everyone is thrilled about it. They had a lot of players leave. I understand that, but my goodness, you look at what Sonny Dykes is doing at TCU. That is not good for Venables because Oklahoma's a more talented roster than TCU every day. Like every day of the week, that Oklahoma roster is just more talented than TCU. And to be 5-5 and not losing to anyone, like you got hammered by Texas and West Virginia is not very good. They're just not very good this year, and you lost. Like, to a backup quarterback, it wasn't even JT Daniels doing it to you. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe he is a coordinator. Maybe he is. There's a possibility.
Yeah, the Big 12 is just insane this year. We've talked about it at length. Oklahoma is second to last in the Big 12 standings. I think I picked them to win the conference before the season. And I mean, as relatively bad as Texas has looked at times this year, and like we can still make fun of Texas, with their fourth loss, like they've been a lot better than Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been rough.
Fair enough.
Okay, Purdue beat Illinois 31 to 24.
Yes.
Big matchup for the Big 10 race. Whoever gets the pleasure of getting hammered by Ohio State or Michigan in the Big 10 championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking at the standings right now in the Big 10 West, it's there are 4 teams tied with a 4-3 record in conference. Those are Illinois, Iowa, Purdue, and Minnesota. Obviously, Purdue now has a tiebreaker over Illinois. There's going to be a lot of other tiebreakers that come into play here. I do think this is probably going to come down to some kind of tiebreaker. 2 more weeks to talk about it. We have no idea what's going to happen. I don't even know if it's worth spending a whole lot of time talking about it. Like, do you have a strong feel for who comes through?
With Wisconsin and Iowa not being good, and then we thought like Minnesota was going to be that team early on, and then they kind of like have dipped off. No one really knows who's good right now. We thought Illinois, Illinois is really good, and then you're 7-3 now. Purdue is 6-4. It's just a bunch of just mediocrity in the Big Ten West. It would be nice to have Michigan over in this side, just to divide it up a little bit, because it's not like this is just a 1-year thing. This has been happening for a lot of years. So it's time for a reshuffling in the Big Ten, and I think this year is kind of the case study for all of it. We need to reshuffle some teams.
This is Exhibit A of why divisions need to go away, and you just take the top 2 teams in the conference.
Yeah. Okay. Right. All right. I guess. Do divisions need to go away? Do they really? Like, why?
They're pointless.
Are they? Like, it's there's something. Okay. Like in the SEC, I mean, like you're saying that Tennessee should meet Georgia in the SEC championship because they're the 2 best teams. And like, I kind of understand that. I'm not a huge fan of the repeat matchup. Like they could potentially do it in back-to-back weeks. Like you could play the same team twice. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like TCU and Texas could easily play again, or well, maybe not anymore, but like they at one point could have. I don't know. I don't like the Big 12, like where they have to like potentially play a team twice. I'm just not a fan. Not a fan of it.
All right. Well, different strokes for different folks. It's all
okay.
It's coming. Anyway, just thought I'd mention Notre Dame Navy a little bit. Probably not really on the national radar, but Notre Dame beat Navy 35-32 in Baltimore. This was a 35-13 game, as we all predicted. Sorry, I couldn't say it with a straight face. As we all predicted, Drew Pine comes out and accounts for 5 first-half touchdowns, 4 passing, 1 running. Also, as we all predicted, Navy passes for over 100 yards in this game. In the second half, this is where the story was, because like I mentioned, Notre Dame was up 35-13 at halftime. And if you look at the score, you notice Notre Dame still had 35 at the end of the game. In the second half, Notre Dame had 20 snaps of offense and got 2 yards. That is 2, yes. Which, yeah, it was just kind of a classic. Tommy Rees has kind of been slowly winning me back the last several weeks with the Clemson game and the first half of this game. And then it's like, actually, no, you should definitely fire me. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Just some weird things in this game. Drew Pine had a great first half. Navy passed the ball relatively well. It was weird at the end. It was just a very weird game. Anyway, you probably have no thoughts on Notre Dame Navy, and we can move on.
The only thing that I didn't watch it. I'll just be really honest. You're the resident Notre Dame fan. I know you're watching this game. I don't. Navy's offense is not built to come from behind.
No, and they did.
In the history of come from behind teams, Navy is not who you think is going to be that team. They're just not. And it's 35-13 at halftime, and you're like, oh my goodness, like Notre Dame's for real. Because I think I'd even said that I really think Navy will kind of keep this close. I think last pod I even said watch out for Navy. I think they're going to cover. And yeah, it was just a boat race from the jump. And it was like, oh my goodness, like I guess I was just wrong on that. And yeah, that was really, really startling. Notre Dame not being able to run the ball. Yeah. I don't quite understand that, because even like you have Drew Pine and he's limited and whatever, like that's cool. But this is a Notre Dame team that ran all over Clemson. And you will never convince me that Navy is anywhere close to a front seven like Clemson. You just won't. Like, they're not. That's not the same type of front seven you're going against. You should trounce all over Navy running the football. And you had 66 yards on 34 carries, not even 2 yards a carry. That's really bad. It's really bad. So, yeah, in my mind, kind of lucky to get out of there with a win running the ball or getting outrushed by Navy like you did.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw it, but Braden Lindsay did have a Sports Center worthy catching a ball behind the defender's back. It was pretty cool. Just a weird game. And let's move on.
Okay.
LSU beat Arkansas 13-10 in Fayetteville. This was weird. This was so weird. It came out right at the beginning of the game that KJ Jefferson was out. So, and we've talked about this before. Like, if Arkansas is ever going to pass the ball well at all, it has to be KJ Jefferson.
Right.
I don't know. Like, what? I'll throw it to you, and then I'll move on to my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this game?
So, yeah, I mean, I was paying quite a bit of attention to this. I'm an SEC fan. LSU, I've been kind of an LSU on the LSU bandwagon maybe a little bit kind of from the start. I think they're pretty good. I think they were a little underrated coming into the year. I like Arkansas as well. But Harold Perkins, man, the freshman defensive end for LSU, true freshman, he decommitted from A&M, right? And then commits to LSU. That was like Kelly's his main guy that he pulled over. Didn't get much else, but he did get that guy. And I mean, what a stud. Like 4 sacks. In some ways, it was good KJ Jefferson didn't play. Like he would have gotten hurt again. Like, I don't, this guy is running down. Okay, Malik Hornsby can fly as a quarterback. He can absolutely go. And I mean, this is the second week in a row that we have Harold Perkins out there shadowing a really, really fast quarterback. Like Bryce Young can also really run. And he tore him up. Like he really wrecked the whole Arkansas offense. I mean, I was really impressed with that. Vegas knew, because I mean, Vegas just does. They knew this game was going to be close. They knew it was going to be sloppy, and it was. LSU, it was an ugly game, something they had to win ugly. Daniels didn't throw. He threw for 86 yards in a pick. Like, he wasn't very good, but they won ugly. Like, good for them. That was, you guys really can't block my edge rusher. So like, he's just going to completely destroy your offense. It's pretty much what the game was. Throw it out. LSU won. They won the SEC West, by the way. On with that win, they won the SEC West. They will now go to the SEC championship game in Kelly's first year.
Yep.
We never, no one was predicting that. They were predicted to finish, I think, 5th in the SEC West. Huge, like the game was ugly, but the result was really all that mattered there for them. It's an SEC win against a good Arkansas team on the road. That's hard to do. So yeah, credit to LSU on that one.
Yeah, you don't really have to put. It's tempting to look at this kind of game and say, "Oh man, like LSU, that was a little shaky."
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, like they're going to the SEC title game.
Right.
They won this game ugly. You could talk about what would have happened if KJ Jefferson was there. It doesn't matter. They won the SEC West in Brennan Kelly's first year.
Yeah.
They're not a legit playoff team or anything, but it is absolutely a resounding success. They could lose out from this point on, and the season will be a success.
Right. Yeah. No doubt. Yeah, it already is. Like you said,
Yep.
they're 8-2 now. They have a chance to get a couple of more wins. They play A&M to end the year, and A&M is just a dumpster fire. More on them in just a little bit. But I think we talked about culture fit. Like, are you a culture fit? And Brian Kelly's faking the accent or whatever. He's not a Cajun, winning makes him a culture fit in Baton Rouge. Like, he won a lot of people over. Good for him. I'm happy for him. That's a program. LSU is a program that is they deserve better than what they had the last 2 years. And yeah, are they always going to win the West? No, they're not. Like, I mean, I think Kelly has some limitations from a recruiting standpoint, but there's no doubt that guy can coach. Like, he can show up on Saturday and he can coach. So yeah, that's awesome for them. Really good for that program. Yeah, happy for those guys. Happy for the kids that stuck around. And yeah, there was some. It was a rough year last year for LSU, and to be SEC West champs, you're going to go play a buzzsaw in Georgia, so you might not win the SEC, but the season's absolutely a success already.
Yeah. Well, another SEC team that you could say their season has been a success as well. That's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt beat Kentucky 24-21, the first SEC win of the Clark Lee era.
Yeah.
Is it hyperbole to say the season's a success with 4 wins for them?
Absolutely. Well, the season over under was 2.5. They cashed the 2.5 win total back in September. Hadn't won since. This was the first SEC game that they, by the way, road win against a top 25 team in Kentucky. Their first win, I think it was in 1,100 days. I think it was 1,100 days since they had an SEC win of any kind. You go on, the first SEC win since 2019. So that is huge for them. They're not going to go bowling, but theoretically, they're still not out of bowling. They're 4-6. They can theoretically still get there, which, just happy for them. You're right. The season's a success for Vanderbilt as well. For Kentucky, man, what are you doing? No one wanted to be the team that Vanderbilt snapped the streak on. Like, you just didn't want to be that team, and Kentucky's that team, man. Will Levis, number 1 overall pick. Will Levis, first round prospect. Will Levis. This was recent, guys. Mel Kiper had Will Levis as a first round NFL draft projection 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, he did. It doesn't make sense to me. He had him over Hendon Hooker. That will never make sense to me. It just never will. He's not a very good quarterback. Like, how many bad games do we have to see before we realize, like, okay, he's just not that good? So yeah, Kentucky, that's a really bad loss, and it's not going to get any easier this next week with Georgia coming to town. But yeah, awesome for Vandy. We need to focus on Vandy. Huge win for them.
Yeah.
You're a Clark Lee guy. You're ecstatic about this, I'm sure.
Well, I think I'm a Clark Lee guy to a point. Like, I think he's a perfect fit at Vanderbilt. Obviously, he went there, so I'm not even including that as part of it. I just think that he can elevate them to the point where they're maybe going to a bowl game every year. And he'll never recruit well enough that they can do much more than that. They'll never be an 8 or 9 win team, most likely, under him.
Yeah.
But I think Vanderbilt is pretty happy if they could win 6 games a year. And I think he's the type of coach that he can get them to the point where they're competencing enough teams that they can win 6 games a year.
Okay. Yeah. If they win 6 a year, 6 wins a year for Vanderbilt is a pipe dream. Like, that is, you love that. That is your ceiling, is 6 wins. I don't think it gets higher than that for Vanderbilt. So yeah, for me, the story was more about Kentucky than Vanderbilt. Like, this is awful. This is awful for Kentucky. We're
Yeah.
gonna get to more SEC teams that are just falling apart. Kentucky's 6-4. They somehow beat Florida. We're not sure how, but they did beat Florida early in the year. Like they got hammered by some people. They're probably gonna get hammered again this week. Yeah, Will Levis had a passer rating of 15. His QBR was 15. That's really bad, man. Like they can't block people. I don't know. I'm not sure where they. Yeah, I don't even know what to say for on the Kentucky side.
Does it feel like this significantly drops Mark Stoops' chances of landing a bigger job this offseason?
Oh, I would say, yeah. I don't think. I mean, I don't think Iowa wants him anymore, or not. Not that they have an opening, but they should. Nebraska, yeah. There's a lot of schools that like he would kind of be the guy for, like theoretically, but yeah, I think it does drop him a bit. It's when you see a program regress, even with your talent, like you still have talented players, you have a good running back, good quarterback, or so we thought, talented quarterback, and to see just the regression that's been there the last year is probably a bit of a ding, on his record.
Yeah, but I would also, I mean, we could talk about Kentucky, but yeah, just props to Vanderbilt.
That's
This
right.
was not fluky, by the way. Like they topped Kentucky in yards per play.
Yeah.
They actually they lost the turnover battle to Kentucky,
Yeah.
and still
Right.
won the game. So
Right.
props to them. That's big. That's a big deal. Okay, Alabama Ole Miss. Alabama beats Ole Miss 30-24. Trailed most of the game. Found a way late. Bryce Young, he's really good. And it just continues to feel like they have almost nothing else. Jahmyr Gibbs was benched most of the second half. They said he was. Some people thought he was dinged up, but they actually reported that he was healthy.
Yeah.
And they were riding Jace McClellan and even Roydell Williams for a bit. I don't know if that was a disciplinary thing or what was going on there, but yeah, Ole Miss gave him a really good shot, and Bama found a way to win this game.
Yeah, I guess. I don't understand how, like we talked about like draft process, and not to get back into that, like the whole Will Levis thing, but Bryce Young's so dang good, man.
Oh,
Like he
yeah.
is, the throws that he makes and like his pocket presence, he's almost impossible to sack. He's very, very difficult to get on the ground. He's very like slippery. Just he sees everyone. He has eyes in the back of his head. He just sees everything all the time. The throws it's just incredible. He is Jason Bourning this Alabama team to 8 wins right now. They're 8-2 without Bryce Young. They're legit 5-5. Like
Yeah,
maybe like that's they're no better than that without Bryce Young. So yeah, I don't have much to say about the rest of their team. I don't think they're very good outside of Bryce Young. I really don't. I think Ole Miss is a better football team, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, our guy's just better than your guy, and we have Bryce and you don't. So like we like our shot. Ole Miss still could have won this game. But yeah, in the end of the day, I think Bryce Young just outplaying opposing quarterbacks is Bama's only recipe to success this year, really.
Yeah, I would say that. Quinshon Judkins, the true freshman running back for Ole Miss, continued to have he's had a really good year. Had another good day, 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. Just something to keep an eye on. We knew coming into the season that Zach Evans would be a big name for them, and Ulysses Bentley the fourth was another big name. And I guess they've been okay at times. Neither one of them really did anything against Bama. It's been the freshman Judkins who's really played well. Jackson Dart he's a stud. Jackson Dart has been a little worse than advertised, I think, but I wonder if maybe he needs one more year in Kiffin's relatively complicated system to really, because I know Matt Corral, his second year with Kiffin was a lot better than his first. So
well, will Lane Kiffin even be there next year?
That's a good question.
Wait till the end of the pod. He may not be there by the end of this podcast.
That's true. Okay, a big upset in the Pac-12. Washington beats Oregon 37-34. Fun game, back and forth. Third quarter was ridiculous. Really, the whole game was crazy. Michael Penix put up another huge game. Bo Nix, a big game, I guess, but also kind of had a few Bo Nix moments in there finally this year. What are your takeaways on this game here?
This one, I was rooting so much for Oregon. Like I like the story. I would have been a fan of Bo Nix winning the Heisman this year. Like of all the stuff that happened to him, he goes across the country. It's a brand new coaching staff. He wins the Heisman. They go to the playoff. That would have been awesome. It was. I think Oregon's a better football team. I think you play
Yeah.
this game over, Oregon wins more times than not. That fourth down where Bo Nix was jumping up and down on the sideline trying to get into the game. He was hurt a little bit, trying to get back into the game for the 4th and 1. Ty Thompson's in the game. It was the most. It's a zone read. All he has to do is keep it, and he walks for a first down. Did not do it. Gives it to the running back. The running back slips, just wipes out, goes down, and that was kind of game over. Like yeah, the cards were stacked against you at that point. I feel really bad for Oregon, but yeah, I mean, it was good to see Washington too. Penix has had a revival of a year. Like he was elite. He was really, really good on Saturday. Some of the throws were just, yeah, they just popped. Like, my goodness, the arm talent is there. And you wonder like why it didn't work last year for him. Like, how does he have like a bad year sandwiched between two good ones? Because this year he's been really, really special.
He has. I do think you're probably right that Oregon is better than Washington, but I do think that Washington is a really bad matchup for Oregon because Oregon's weakness is definitely the secondary, and that's what Washington does. All right. Georgia beat Mississippi State 45-19. You're the Georgia fan. Tell us what you saw.
I don't know. Georgia gave up a punt return for a touchdown that kind of made me mad, like about halftime.
End of the half, right?
Yeah, right before halftime. It was close. It was kind of irritating. Like, for some reason we have turnovers. Like, I don't quite understand it. Kind of fluky stuff too. Like a batted ball that like somehow the guy like just kind of Odell's it right out of the air and was like, oh, okay. Like, is this gonna really be like, is that the night that we're gonna have? And yeah, it kind of felt like maybe it was. Will Rogers threw the ball 51 times. They ran the ball 15. Mississippi State. You will never beat Georgia with that kind of imbalance. You have to stay balanced to beat Georgia. You have to run the ball with a little bit of success to beat Georgia. Like at some point, you're going to have to be balanced because it gets too, you're just too one-dimensional. They're coached too well to just be beat by one thing over and over again. So yeah, once Mississippi State kind of quit running the ball, you knew it was like, this is kind of over. So yeah, it was good to see. It was good to see Georgia not play great, but still get out there and dominate and cover a spread. That felt really good. Yeah, that was really good to see. You worried about kind of a letdown game, on the road after the big Tennessee game, that we all talked about, game of the year. How do you rebound after that? You come out on the road and you cover. I'm happy. As a Georgia fan, I'm happy with that. So we just, survive in advance. You clinch the East. You'll be going to play LSU in the SEC championship. As long as you win the rest of your regular season games against Kentucky and Georgia Tech, like you can even lose to LSU, you're still in the playoff. So yeah, it's just another step in the right direction for Georgia. I'm not willing to go there yet. You said Georgia versus the field last week. Last week you said that. I'm still not willing to go there, but they're getting closer, man. They're getting closer. When you can hammer somebody when you're playing your C+ game and you're still like just beating the brakes off people, that's tough to do. So yeah, I'm getting closer to you on that one.
All right. Okay, let's move on to another SEC matchup that was fun for all the wrong reasons. Auburn beats Texas A&M 13-10. Ashton, you have the floor.
Okay, I don't want the floor. Oh my. Okay, first we're gonna start with the positives, right? We're trying to be positive here.
Right.
Cadillac Williams as the Auburn interim head coach, and I don't know if you watched the post game presser that he did, just kind of out there on the field. That was awesome. That was awesome for that guy and for that program. It meant so much to him. I mean, he was, a famous running back from back in the days, and he had been on the staff. But you got a feeling like with Harsin, when Harsin got fired, the feeling was that Harsin didn't really care that much. Like, he's an outsider. He's not one of us. Cadillac Williams is he's literally one of them. And you saw how much it meant to not just to him, but to the players, to the students were like partying on the field for 15, 20 minutes. Like, no one left. Like, everyone just stayed in the game for like 20 minutes or stayed in the stadium after the game was over. older retired NFL players were there, like alumni. It was really cool to see. Like that was really neat from the Auburn standpoint. He's not going to be the guy long term. Like he's never been a head coach before, but he absolutely needs to stay on the staff, like in some regard, because that guy is everything that Auburn football is about. Is really cool. They're a program that they deserve better than what they had. So yeah, awesome for them, huge win, and that has to feel great. Now to A&M and Texas A&M. They spent $30 million on a recruiting class that was the best recruiting class that we had ever seen before, Vince. We had never seen a better recruiting class than 2021 A&M. And they were top 5, weren't they, in the preseason? They were number 5.
Number 6, I believe.
Was it 6? Okay. Number 6 in preseason polls. They are now last place in the SEC, not the SEC West, the SEC. They currently rank behind Vanderbilt. They rank behind Auburn. They rank behind South Carolina.
Missouri.
Missouri's another one. All of these programs, they are behind.
Say Vanderbilt again. Just say Vanderbilt one more time.
And they're behind Vanderbilt. They are 3-7. Long gone. I mean, the chance of a bowl game is long gone. They have no shot at a bowl. They will not be playing in a bowl game. You're not going to be getting all those extra practices, those bowl practices for these freshmen. A&M has real trouble, man. They have real problems. The buyout, I thought it was 95. It's only 85 million. So like Jimbo's buyout, but it's fully guaranteed. Like he's getting the whole 85. So you really can't fire him. And I know the hitman, like that's cheaper, but like you still like he's the guy. Like that was just a joke. He's the dude. He has to stay there. I don't know what you do. Like I don't know what you do. It was bad, but you think that, dude, with that much talent, like their floor is 6-6. Like it can't get worse than 6-6. They're losing games to bad teams. They're not good. A&M is not a good. They would lose to Illinois tomorrow on a neutral field.
Oh yeah,
tomorrow
easy.
They would lose to Illinois. I don't know. Back to you. What are we doing? What are we doing here? What are we doing at A&M?
It's so bad. It's so bad. This has been kind of a thing the last couple of weeks. There's a little talk out there that a bunch of their players have the portal flu. Like they have guys sitting out with the flu. I do worry for them that there will be a mass exodus this offseason of players leaving.
Of course there will. Of course.
Is it possible that could be okay? Like that might be the best thing for them to. Everyone that stays there actually wants to be there, and let's go try to win 7 games next year, 8 games, and like build something a little more from the foundation. I do think like this might all go away. We might be shocked a year from now at the turnaround if all they have to do is stay right in Texas.
I know.
Hire Garrett Riley away from TCU.
Truth.
Throw $2 million a year at Garrett Riley. Hand him the keys to the offense. Let Jimbo just recruit.
That's all Jimbo needs to do is just recruit.
All you have to do. And they would be great.
The offense, it's one thing for it to be bad, but when it's so terrible, like so terrible, they didn't score points through 3 quarters. You got shut out by Auburn, who does not have a good defense. They do not. I watched them in game. They do not have a good defense, and they cannot really stop the run. And they completely stopped your running game. You didn't even run for 100 yards all game against Auburn. I don't understand. Like, I don't know what they're really paying Jimbo that much money for. Like, he's the offensive genius, but like his offense is really sucked. He hasn't had a good offense since Jameis left Florida State. I don't understand it, man. I don't understand it. And he's not going to give up the keys to the offense. I would be shocked if he gives up the keys to that offense. That's his thing. That's what he does, huh?
Well, sure. Does he do it?
I don't know.
I do wonder, like, there's got to be some level of personal pride in a coach like that where you have to see this is not working. Like you have, and at some point you have to care more about your win-loss record than you do about who gets the credit for calling the offense and the brilliant plays,
Mhm.
right? Like, isn't there something like that where I have now come to the point where I care more about winning the games than I care about, oh, I called the play or somebody else
Mhm.
called the play that I hired, by the way.
They Auburn had 3 turnovers, A&M only had 1, so they won the
Hmm.
turnover battle. And yeah, still lost. Still lost. They yeah, I don't know. Auburn physically dominated them, and that's not something that you would have. That's just not what you would have thought. Like you would have like A&M can. I mean, shoot, like they have enough good receivers. Like they'll do something. Connor Wigman's a 5-star. Like they'll be okay. Yeah, that it was Evan Stewart was, I mean, pretty much like nothing. I mean, almost non-existent. A-Chain didn't even play in the game. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know that Georgia needs to line up to steal some of those players as on their
Yeah.
way out here in just a couple of weeks.
The Garrett Riley just makes way too much sense for them, right in Texas.
Yeah.
The If Garrett Riley is not their offensive coordinator next year, it better be because Alabama hired him. Like
Okay.
that's pretty much the only way that it's okay,
I like
acceptable
that.
for A&M not to have. Just saying.
Yep. Agreed.
All right, let's move on to some teams that actually know how to play offense. North Carolina beat Wake Forest 36-34. Didn't really make sense to us that Wake Forest was favored. It was tight. Drake May continues to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Good game. Nice. Some of these games between Carolina and Wake Forest in previous years have been like in the 50s. So
Yeah.
this did resemble a little bit more normal football. 36-34. Still a good offensive output. Any takeaways for you from this one? By the way, I should mention North Carolina clinched their side of the ACC, so they will be facing Clemson in the ACC championship game.
Right. 9-1. The non-zero. Remember last week we gave North Carolina a non-zero chance at making the playoff, like just a sliver, like kind of like an also ran candidate, like they just a sliver. It went up a little bit. It went up just a little bit. They keep having these ugly wins, man. Like there's so many games. You look down down their schedule. They beat App State by 2. They beat Georgia State by 7. Miami by 3. Miami's not very good. They beat Duke by 3. They beat Virginia by 3. They beat Wake Forest by 2. Like they just keep sneaking these wins out, but they're 9-1, man. They're 9-1. And if they go and if they beat Clemson, I think they probably get in. Like I think they probably get in over a non-division team. You think of like, yeah, Michigan or Tennessee, like one of them 2 teams. Yeah, like North Carolina can still get into the playoff. It went up just a little bit. It went up just a sliver. They have a better chance this week than they did last.
Who's the best quarterback in the country?
Bryce Young. Bryce Young's the best.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah, but Drake May's top 5. Drake May is top 5.
I think he might be top 2.
Oh wow, better than CJ Stroud? You think
He's
so?
so good, dude.
Yeah.
He's just as toolsy as CJ Stroud. Plus, he can run and yeah.
What's toolsy? He's toolsy. What's that?
He can do everything. He can make all the throws. He has all. It's kind of an NFL term. Like
okay, toolsy. I like that.
He has all the tools. NFL scouts love that. But he's also like he has all the tools Will Levis has, but he's actually good.
Yeah, right. He makes good decisions.
Right.
He's accurate. Will Levis, you know that Joe Milton guy that's like the backup for Tennessee?
Yeah.
That like he has just a cannon. Absolute rocket, but he throws it like 4 yards into the bleachers every time. That's kind of like what Will Levis is. Yeah, like man, like I have such arm talent, and it doesn't matter if I'm accurate or not. I can't make any decisions. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, big matchup in Texas. TCU beat Texas 17-10. Another line we didn't think made sense. Texas was favored by 7 going into this game.
Yeah.
You were talking about a sliver of hope for North Carolina making the playoff. Like,
yes. Mm-hmm.
I've been working under the impression that TCU would lose a game at some point. I'm not so sure anymore.
Yeah. No, agreed. They were a 7-point dog in this game on the road. This was a lock fight, I believe, between me and you. Mm-hmm. Man, this game was never in doubt. Texas's their lone touchdown was a defensive score where Duggan kind of like it was a bad play from Duggan, but still, like it wasn't because Texas had an incredible offense. Quinn Ewers perhaps not the guy. Like Duggan absolutely outplayed Ewers, like no doubt about it. Like he was he was the better quarterback, and TCU ran the ball on Texas, which is something that not many, like Alabama didn't really like, and that's with Jahmyr Gibbs. So yeah, I was really impressed with TCU. Games that you have to win. We talked about teams really showing who they really are in November. What's your true colors? TCU could be a playoff team. TCU could absolutely be a playoff team, and they could deserve to be. This TCU team, maybe they are just one of the 4 best teams in the country. Like I'm kind of willing to go there at this point.
Yeah, they might be. They just keep finding ways to win. Their defense played really well this game. You still have to feel like, I mean, they only scored 17 this game, but you have to feel
Sure.
like with Max Duggan and Quentin Johnston, like their offense is going to be just fine going forward.
Yeah.
As far as Texas goes, you mentioned Quinn Ewers. Does it not feel like he needs to just go ahead and play 3 more years of college football and he'll be pretty dang good at that? Like after that, because it feels like he needs reps. Like his ceiling is really high and you see it, but then you see games like this where he can't make a throw. His footwork is terrible. Accuracy fails because of his footwork. Just lazy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Remember, he never played his senior year of high school. Like
Right.
he kind of went to Ohio State, didn't play at all there. Yeah, you see some of his accuracy, like the Oklahoma State game that he played, where I think he had 30 some incompletions, which is hard to do. Like he had 30 incompletions. Yeah, no, I agree. I have no issues there. He's not a yeah. You mentioned high ceiling guy, all the arm talent. Decisions though, like I'm becoming a less of a believer in arm talent. Like I like the decision makers, man.
Yeah.
Like the guys who, like Bryce is kind of that unique blend of both. Like he makes good decisions all the time, but still has elite talent, like just arm talent. But I mean, Stetson Bennett is a better college quarterback right now than Quinn Ewers is, and
Yeah.
maybe it's because he has more reps. But like you would trust Stetson over Ewers, whereas I mean, no one even thinks of Stetson as an NFL quarterback, and Ewers is going to probably be one. But he would have outplayed him. Like he will outplay any of these guys. And okay, you don't want to get into that. The list of quarterbacks that Stetson Bennett has outplayed head to head is it's tremendous. Like you don't even want to kind of go into that. That's just a wormhole. But yeah, Ewers. Okay, Arch Manning was on campus for this game, right? Any chance Arch sees this and it's just like I have to go somewhere else. Like Tennessee looks pretty enticing right now. You know what I'm saying? Like all these other schools that want me, why am I going to this? Look at that offense.
I think that maybe the opposite could be true, where he sees that and says, I could be playing by week 3 next year. Like yeah, I don't think we're going to see Arch Manning decommit. I just don't think he would have committed if he wasn't 100% sold. The Mannings don't strike me as that type of family. I could be wrong. We've all been wrong before. I do think that
yeah,
I think that Texas Sark is it fair to say his offense is elite in the first half?
Yeah, right.
Like
right.
just looking at what Texas has been over his 2 years there, it seems like they always come out with, for the most part, they come out with a good plan and they put up points in the first half, and then the defense adjusts and they aren't able to counter adjust.
Yeah.
And
fair.
And I think you could make the argument that if they have a little better offensive line play, if they have a quarterback who makes some better decisions, maybe like an Arch Manning, maybe it works out better. Like maybe they're up 49-3 every halftime and they don't have to worry about making second half adjustments.
Or maybe we just think, Sark had 4 first-round receivers and 2 NFL quarterbacks at Alabama, and we get to see all the cool plays that he runs there. And then you take away all the first-round receivers and all the NFL quarterbacks out of the system, and suddenly it looks kind of, normal. Are we sure Sark's that good? That's just a question. That's just, don't even go there.
It's a good question.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. One more game we should just mention real quick. Arizona upsets UCLA 34-28. Night game in the Pac-12, so probably nobody watched it.
Yeah.
But it is sneaky big. UCLA still had an outside shot at the
Yeah.
playoff. UCLA and Oregon both going down. Big,
Ah,
rough day for the Pac-12. I mean, they're pretty much down to USC or bust.
right.
I do think, like USC, they finished their last two games here, UCLA and Notre Dame, and then they'll have the Pac-12 championship game. If they are somehow able to win out, I do think they're probably in the playoff. That said, I don't think they're going to win out.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one hurt. Like I was rooting for some good Pac-12, like just like excitement, down
Yeah.
the stretch. We needed to see one loss UCLA, one loss USC, and a one loss Oregon in the last 2 weeks. Like that's
Yeah.
what we needed. We're not getting it.
Yep.
We have to have USC beat UCLA this week. That's their only chance. The Pac-12's only chance of getting in the playoff. That's a bummer, man. I kind of wanted to see I want to see DTR go to a playoff or Bo Nix. I was rooting for that. The jerseys alone are incredible. Like,
yes.
What other reason would you? I mean, the jerseys between Oregon and UCLA are that's awesome. But yeah, it's a bummer. I don't know. They both lost, and this is a game. I mean, UCLA is better than Arizona. Arizona's not very good. UCLA should have won this game. They kind of Chip Kelly'd it just a little bit. Like this is a game where this like Georgia just puts teams away. This is where you had to find a way to win ugly. You had to find a way to do what LSU did with Brian Kelly. You didn't. Like LSU was able to win ugly, and yeah, you couldn't. You let Arizona hang around and beat you. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a rough look. Arizona has played better this year. Jaden Delores played pretty well at quarterback. And it just feels like they're slowly building something, and they managed to reach up and get UCLA, which good for Arizona. Rough look for the Pac-12, just in general this weekend.